Yeah, can we please have Gabe start by himself?
You've probably heard the story about Erykah Badu's bandmates fighting to save Bag Lady from being buried. Creative disagreements nearly killed the track. The label wanted nothing to do with it, and only through sheer persistence did one of the most empowering songs in R&B history see the light of day. Great story, except none of it actually happened. Every major interview and collaborator account from the past 25 years tells a different story. Not Questlove, not James Poyser, not even Erykah Badu herself has ever claimed this track almost didn't get released. The documented reality involves a melody hummed in 1997, a legendary recording studio built inside Jimi Hendrix's old apartment, and a sample connecting two hip-hop landmarks across 3 decades. What actually happened turns out to be far more fascinating than the myth. Welcome back to Neo Soul House, where we dig into the real stories behind the music and the artist who shaped a movement. If you're new here, this is the channel where we go beyond the surface and explore what actually happened in the studios, the label offices, and the personal journeys that created the songs you love. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Now let's get into it. A melody waiting for words. Baduism dropped in 1997 and transformed Erykah Badu into the face of neo-soul practically overnight. The album went triple platinum, and she seemed to be everywhere at once. But success like that doesn't eliminate personal struggle. Often, it amplifies everything. A 2001 interview with Hip Online revealed the deeply personal origins of Bag Lady. Badu explained that she started writing it because her own personal growth inspired her. She'd figured out that too many things on her mind and on her plate were the reason she couldn't get through the day as well as she eventually could, so she started eliminating the things that were too heavy to carry. This wasn't calculated hit-making, this was therapy set to music. Badu described how it started with a melody she was humming, and how usually the words find their place because they be waiting to get on a song. 3 years would pass between that first hummed melody and the finished track. 3 years of personal growth, relationship changes, and the birth of her son, Seven. By the time Bag Lady finally got recorded, she had lived every word of it. The Soulquarians and Electric Lady. Something magical happened in Greenwich Village between 1996 and 2002. A loose collective of musicians began gathering at Electric Lady Studios, the recording complex Jimi Hendrix built in 1970. They didn't have a formal name at first, or any kind of business structure. They just shared an obsession with pushing Black music forward. The core members read like a Hall of Fame roster: Questlove from The Roots, D'Angelo fresh off Brown Sugar, Common, Mos Def, producer Dilla, and keyboardist James Poyser. Right at the center of it all sat Erykah Badu. They called themselves the Soulquarians, and they were recording 3 albums simultaneously: D'Angelo's Voodoo, Common's Like Water for Chocolate, and Erykah Badu's Mama's Gun, all taking shape at once in the same space where Hendrix once lived and dreamed. Questlove called the sessions this utopian paradise he had always envisioned in his memoir, Mo Meta Blues. The energy stayed collaborative rather than competitive. This wasn't an environment of creative conflict. This was creative freedom at its peak. But while the studio operated as a utopia, the world outside those walls told a different story. The real label battle. Here's where the documented tension actually exists, not with Bag Lady specifically, but with the entire direction of Mama's Gun. Motown saw what Baduism accomplished with its triple platinum certification and Grammy wins, and the label wanted that formula repeated. R. Kelly and Babyface received invitations from the label to work on the album. These weren't random suggestions. R. Kelly was at the height of his commercial dominance, and Babyface had produced hits for everyone from Whitney Houston to Toni Braxton. From a business perspective, pairing Badu with these hitmakers made perfect sense. Badu turned them down. Her response stayed diplomatic but firm. She respected their music, but it's not necessarily parallel to what she did. The gamble was significant. She was telling her label she knew better than their commercial instincts, that she would rather produce herself and work with her Soulquarian collaborators than take the safer route. The label relented, and Mama's Gun would be made Badu's way. Real quick, if you're learning something new about Erykah Badu and the Soulquarians era, do me a favor and hit that like button. It helps this video reach more neo-soul fans who need to hear these stories. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's the time, because we're covering more untold stories from this incredible era of music. Drop a comment and let me know which artist or album you want us to explore next. I read every single one. All right, back to the story. The Isaac Hayes Connection. The sonic DNA of Bag Lady reaches back to 1971, when Isaac Hayes released a soundtrack to Shaft. One track called Bumpy's Lament would find new life 30 years later in two very different forms. Dr. Dre sampled Bumpy's Lament for his track Xxplosive on the album 2001 in 1999, introducing a new generation to Hayes' sophisticated sound. Then came Bag Lady. Here's the interesting part. The album version doesn't actually sample Bumpy's Lament directly. Badu and her team interpolated it, meaning they re-recorded the musical elements rather than lifting them from the original recording, earning Isaac Hayes a songwriting credit alongside Badu and keyboardist Sean Martin. The Chibasak remix took a different approach and directly sampled Dr. Dre's Xxplosive, which was itself built on Bumpy's Lament. This created a fascinating chain of musical influence spanning 3 decades of Black music history. When Badu directed the music video, yes, she directed it herself, she chose to use the Chibasak remix because the Dr. Dre connection gave the visual a harder edge. A video like no one had ever seen. Badu didn't hire a big-name director for the music video. She shot it herself on mini DV digital video, technology more commonly associated with home movies than major label releases. The result looked deliberately lo-fi, intimate, almost amateur. This was entirely intentional. The cast of Bag Ladies dancing through the video weren't professional dancers, but rather the women in Badu's actual life. Singers Yazara and Ndambi appeared, the same artists who sang background on the track itself, and Badu went even further by including her own mother and her own sister. While other artists were spending hundreds of thousands on special effects and elaborate sets, Badu made intimacy her aesthetic. That choice worked beautifully. Chart domination and the Grammy snub. That gamble Badu made, turning down R. Kelly and Babyface, insisting on producing her own sound, paid off spectacularly. Bag Lady debuted on the Billboard Hot 100 in August 2000, climbed week after week, and reached number 6 by October, her first top 10 hit on that chart. On the R&B charts, the song hit number 1 and stayed there for 6 consecutive weeks. Mama's Gun followed with first week sales of 191,000 units, Badu's career best. The RIAA certified it platinum within 4 weeks. The label that wanted mainstream hitmakers now had undeniable proof that Badu's instincts were commercially viable. Then came the 2001 Grammys. Bag Lady entered with 2 nominations, Best Female R&B Vocal Performance and Best R&B Song. She lost both. Toni Braxton took one, Destiny's Child took the other. Years later, in a 2025 Spotify anniversary special, Badu reflected on those losses and said something revealing. "I've gotten so much from this album that it is much better than any award I can imagine." That statement captures something essential about Badu's approach. The external validation was never the point. The truth about creative freedom. So what's the real story behind Bag Lady? It's not a story about a song almost getting lost. It's a story about artistic vision fully realized. Erykah Badu wrote a melody in 1997 while processing her own emotional weight and carried that melody through 3 years of personal transformation. She recorded it with some of the most talented musicians of her generation in a studio built inside Jimi Hendrix's apartment. She interpolated Isaac Hayes' 1971 composition while connecting it to Dr. Dre's 1999 production. The label's preferred producers got turned down. The album got made her way. The music video got directed on consumer-grade equipment with her mother and sister as backup dancers, and the song became her biggest commercial hit. No bandmates had to fight to save it. No label executives tried to shelve it. The creative disagreements that did exist concerned the album's overall direction, not this specific track. And Badu won those battles before Bag Lady was even finished. The next time you hear the opening notes of that song, remember what you're actually hearing. Not a track that barely survived, but a track that was always destined to connect. A track that carried Badu's personal revelation straight into the hearts of millions of listeners. 25 years later, we're still learning how to pack light, and Erykah Badu is still showing us the way.